So, I mean, we've all seen it from the river, and, now, is some of that water coming in over the top? Is this not catching on?
I'm not saying it hasn't come over the top. It's designed, the 100-year storm, that's what those top 6 are for, is for the 100-year flood. And the reason that entire structure was put there was to keep silt from going in the river. Because that ditch up there, you can go out, I mean, it's got a good stand of grass in most areas, but it still erodes and it still has sediment. That structure was put there to keep sediment out of that river. That was the main purpose of that structure. It's not there for anything else, basically. It's just to slow the water down and to catch the sediment.
Now, I guess if we're working there, is there any way to make this a more sightly? Talking about downtown revitalization and people looking across there with their wedding photographs.
We can take the plastic off and let the steel go, it'll turn like steel does, it'll rust. We can do that. Because once the steel is through there, the plastic doesn't really have any function.
Okay, you're saying off this.
Now that's on the upper 6,
Only on the upper 6.
not the lower 6.
You're
It's
saying-
like they're all over the place, right? It don't look like they're.
You're saying off the top of your head, what now?
I'm 40 to 80,000, but don't hold me to that till I get through.
And that figure has nothing to do with the Shelby Street. That's just south.
The Shelby Street thing is, it's like a $1,500 fix. It's not a big number.
So it could fall in those.
Okay. Any other questions?
What is our next step on
Make some phone calls and see if there is any assistance there. Authorize an engineer. We're gonna have to have that though, even if the Corps became involved, we're gonna have to have our engineering on this.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe you are.
It would be better to go ahead and authorize it, then if they told you no, then we still have that in place if you need. I think we should go ahead.
Don't hold me to it.
I think you're gonna be waiting a while to go forward more.
I might be wrong, it's a question worth asking. The last time I spoke with them was before, you've got to bring them engineer first. They give you a nice name.
Do some of them leave? They left.
In other words, they want to make sure you know what you're talking about before they go and get involved.
I think it's a cost saving measure, to have engineering back on that.
Let's see if we can ask that question up front. When we contact them, is where we are, and then, but is there any way of maybe moving forward and designating to do the engineering if there's not going to be any assistance from the Corps in doing the engineering? Could we do it that way? Go ahead and do approval for engineering, but when we ask the questions of Corps, if they're going to provide any engineering in this, then we don't have to do it. But we already have it in place if we need to do it.
You can just include the contingent fund forwards out.
And then we have to come back and start over again. And
You all comfortable with
Please
that?
do that.
What Larry just said, they may even say, well, by all means, go ahead, and we can be in a reimbursement situation.
I mean, I don't know that for certain, but I know.
Well, even if FEMA, if we get it in an emergency situation, with FEMA, if
That's right.
it's a preventive thing, we always present the engineering on that, and then we get reimbursed. Okay? In kind and everything that we do. Okay? You all okay with that? Next item would be approved purchase of a lawnmower for the ball fields. Did I skip one? I tell you what, let's go back up here to number 5. I already checked it. Proposal for work evaluation for city employees / disparity in salaries.
For the last few years during our budget time of the year, you'll know that I've try to implement an appraisal process and try to see where salaries are. Well, Janice was good enough to provide me with breakdown of the salaries, and we're not gonna name any names, of course, we won't do that. But I have looked over it and dissected it. We've got people that have been here like since '01 that's still in step number 1. And we've got people that started in 2012 and already in step number 3. So in my thinking, and if you've worked with federal, state government, you know that if you don't have an appraisal process and try to work your employees up, they're going to stay in step 1. And I think there's some problems when you have a division director who is in step 1 and is been working here for years, and they're still at the beginning step. You've got employees that come in and you start them higher even than your division director. And I think that there's some problems with it. I don't necessarily, and I'm not asking for a study to be done on this, because we've already had this study. The study was done, was it Jamestown, the last administration, or one before? Okay, it's just never has been implemented. I think it was there for us to begin to implement. I think in y'all's administration, we had that done, of course, to begin implementing it. And I have not done the work of calling other cities of like size to get any copies of their evaluations, but I know that they do. I know that in the military, you have evaluations. I don't know a government job that doesn't have evaluations, and that is just a tool to help us. Could have helped us in the past, and it can help us in the future, because if you've got an employee that you're having problems with, that is a measure that you use to do corrective action to bring them up to standards. Or if you have a problem, a personnel issue with an employee that's not going to perform at that duties, then you're in the line with all procedures to dismiss that employee or work with that employee. And I think that it would help this city if we're going to continue to push and grow. And we need to also think about our city employees and try to get them on a level playing field where they can advance some. Because just coming in every year and doing a across-the-board raise does not give an incentive. They know they're going to get a across-the-board raise pretty much. There's not an incentive for them to do a better job or seek education or that type of thing so that they know they can promote up. So I think it would be a discredit to us if we don't try to work with our employees and put something in place for them to better them. Because I've taken each pay grade, and like I said, if you've got a person that's in, say, pay grade 103, that's been here since 2006, and they're still at step 2, and you've got someone that started in 2012 and they're already at step 3, that's 11 years that person has not had, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one, from 6 to 12 at 6 years, that they've just been status quo. Well, if we've got an employee that's just status quo, we got a problem. I think that we could have prevented some things in the past that happened, and encourage our employees. So I'm going to pursue, if it's, talk to some of y'all about this. If it's real, I'm going to start doing some homework to bring in some evaluations and let us start looking over those to start implementing what our personnel procedures already have in place for us. And there are guidelines to go by to do grading of employees. I'm pretty sure that in the private sector, from what I have talked to in the private sector, that they even have evaluation systems and evaluation, for their promotions and also for their annual raises. So that's what I've been doing with the breakdown, and that's the only way we can do is to encourage our employees to keep good employees. I know it's talking about disparity in pay. Public Works has a great deal of disparity in the scales of your employees. You've got a lot of new employees that make more than the employees that have been